Hey guys, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. This is your host Thomas Hyrie from On the Hot Podcast. Today, I have some bonus content for you guys. The bonus content I will be regarding and covering will be in the sport of basketball and the NBA world. And today, I'll be sharing my thoughts on what was one of, if not the best, NBA trade deadline of all time. It's up there for me. I'm not gonna say it's the best, but it's one of the best NBA trade deadlines that we've seen in quite some time, especially in the last 3 to 5 years. Fireworks were done in this trade deadline. The landscape of the NBA has changed after this NBA trade deadline. So let's start off with what I believe was the biggest move before the NBA trade deadline was officially done Thursday afternoon at 3 p.m. Eastern Time, 12 p.m. Western Time. So we had Kevin Durant, who was traded to the Phoenix Suns. The Suns acquired Kevin Durant and TJ Warren from the Brooklyn Nets in exchange for Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson, Jay Crowder, who eventually the next morning was traded to the Milwaukee Bucks. But during this trade, it was Jay Crowder and a total of four first round picks that were exchanged for Kevin Durant to come to Phoenix. Now, this has been months in the making. I'm not surprised that he was traded to the Phoenix Suns. If you remember, during the summertime, during the NBA offseason, early in the NBA offseason, July, Kevin Durant officially requested a trade from the Brooklyn Nets. The Nets did not grant his wish, but on his wish list was the Phoenix Suns, the Miami Heat, and the Memphis Grizzlies, I believe. I apologize if I'm wrong, but Kevin Durant wanted out, and this was a story in the making. It was the Kyrie Irving trade that set up for Kevin Durant to leave Brooklyn, and he got his wish. Now, Kevin Durant finds himself in Phoenix with a loaded roster in Phoenix. The Suns have officially, in my opinion, become the favorite to win the NBA Finals. They found the Phoenix Suns were just 2 games shy of winning the NBA Finals 2 seasons ago, fell 4-2 short to the Milwaukee Bucks in the 2021 NBA Finals. Now they have found the missing puzzle piece that they've been missing for quite some time in Kevin Durant. So, now the Phoenix Suns are a dangerous team in the West. I have high expectations for them. Like I just said, they're the favorite for me to get to the NBA Finals, if not win the NBA Finals, and especially play in the Western Conference Finals. Now the starting lineup in Phoenix, you have Chris Paul at point guard. You have Devin Booker as shooting guard. You have Kevin Durant at small forward. You have TJ Warren at power forward. And then you have DeAndre Ayton at center. This is going to be a hard team to beat. It's on a nightly basis. Once they build that chemistry together, any of these 3 guys, any of those 5 guys, can take over a ball game for you, and it's gonna be scary. But take my money officially to see a Phoenix Suns versus Golden State Warriors best of 7 game series. Please let me get this at some point during the NBA playoffs. Ooh, take my money for that matchup. But the Phoenix Suns are definitely going to be a problem now with Kevin Durant, especially one of the greatest scorers of all time, playing alongside a point guard and Chris Paul, and one of the best guards in the game in Devin Booker. Meanwhile, for the Brooklyn Nets, they are officially in full rebuild mode after having the best big 3 on paper in NBA history. When you think about it, that's the biggest bust when you talk about a trio being created, a big 3 being created. When you had Kyrie Irving, when you had Kevin Durant, when you had James Harden, all 3 players together, 3 of the best players in the conversation for being in that conversation for best generational players that we have seen over the last 10, 12 years in the league. And these players only played 16 games together. So that just goes to show you that it was time for Brooklyn Nets to go in full rebuild mode. Those draft picks will pay off eventually. Like me and the guys touched on episode 88. If you guys haven't watched and listened to it yet, we talked about Kyrie Irving heading to the Dallas Mavericks. And then we seen that the Los Angeles Lakers acquired D'Angelo Russell, Malik Beasley, and Jared Vanderbilt in a 3-team trade that sent Mike Conley from the Utah Jazz to the Timberwolves. We had Russell Westbrook traded to the Utah Jazz with in exchange for a 2027 first round pick that was sent over from the Los Angeles Lakers. Now, the Lakers have officially gotten better after this trade, and they find themselves as a threat that nobody's going to want to see in the first round of the playoffs. So they could get, if they find themselves in the first round of the playoffs, they might find themselves in a position to go through the play-in tournament. But this is a team that nobody's going to want to see. This is a team that officially got better. When you surround these players around LeBron James and Anthony Davis, they have a guard in D'Angelo Russell who will be returning to the Los Angeles Lakers. They got a better guard that can shoot the ball better. They have more shooters around LeBron and Anthony Davis, and they're a more athletic team now after this trade. And meanwhile, in Minnesota, you get Mike Conley, who is back playing together with Rudy Gobert. With their time they had in Utah, they were a pretty good point guard, center threat out there in the West. Once upon a time ago, made an impact with the Utah Jazz. And I think this was better for the Minnesota Timberwolves to go with Mike Conley as a point guard compared to D'Angelo Russell. Like I talked about in the previous episode, I really didn't think that D'Angelo Russell was a good fit for the Minnesota Timberwolves. It was a great move to get a veteran guy, Mike Conley, who can elevate that team, playing alongside Karl Anthony Towns, playing alongside Anthony Edwards and Rudy Gobert. I like the trade. And meanwhile, Russell Westbrook finds himself in Utah. After signing the biggest NBA contract at the time, Russell Westbrook has now officially been traded 4 times in his career. Went from OKC to the Rockets, from Rockets to the Wizards, went from the Wizards to LA, now LA to the Utah Jazz. I don't see he's going to be in the plans for the sake of the future for the Utah Jazz. I think his contract's going to be bought out. And I expect him to be either signed with the Chicago Bulls or the Miami Heat come the start of next week. Then we saw Mo Bamba was traded to the Los Angeles Lakers. Orlando Magic traded Mo Bamba, big man, to the Los Angeles Lakers in exchange for Patrick Beverley. And this is crazy because Patrick Beverley literally tweeted less than 24 hours before the trade deadline was over that him and D'Angelo Russell were reunited after playing together for one season in Minnesota. He said, back reunited. Well, that tweet definitely aged because Patrick Beverley was traded right before the NBA trade deadline was over. And the Lakers just got even better at adding Mo Bamba with the additional players that I just mentioned a few moments ago. But Patrick Beverley will be bought out of his contract. That's a young Orlando Magic team that's still trying to figure a lot out for their sake of the future. Patrick Beverley is trying to contend for a championship late in his career. I expect him to be bought out of his contract. Eric Gordon was traded to the Los Angeles Clippers in a 3-team trade deal. We saw Eric Gordon get traded from the Houston Rockets to the Los Angeles Clippers. We saw John Wall, who was traded back to the Houston Rockets. Oh boy. John Wall was cooking up a storm, saying how bad his experience was at Houston Rockets, saying how bad his experience was when he was sent home for a whole entire NBA season, after he was thinking he was going to play with James Harden in Houston. Ooh, back with the Rockets. Danny Green, this 3-team trade, was traded to the Rockets as well. And then Luke Kennard, who was with the Los Angeles Clippers, was traded to the Memphis Grizzlies. Eric Gordon provides the Los Angeles Clippers with a much-needed shooter. That team was lacking a lot of shooters before the trade deadline. And they just got Eric Gordon, who is a more than capable guy to make threes when you need it most. John Wall will definitely be bought out of his contract. Don't expect him to play in Houston. And I believe Danny Green will be bought out of his contract as well. Luke Kennard adds a lot of some depth to the Memphis Grizzlies, that young, gritty Memphis Grizzlies team. After this trade deadline, I would like to say, Ja, you are not fine in the Western Conference. You might be in trouble, buddy. But Josh Hart, we also seen Josh Hart on the move. He was traded to the New York Knicks. The Trailblazers traded Josh Hart to the New York Knicks for Cam Reddish and in exchange for a first-round pick. Josh Hart and Jalen Brunson will be reunited for the first time since their college days at Villanova. It's going to be exciting to see these two guards play together again. They were successful together at Villanova, and now we get to see it in a New York Knicks uniform. The two together in New York Knicks uniform, I should say. Cam Reddish gets a fresh start. This is a guy that had a lot of talent coming out of college. He had a lot of high expectations when he came out of college, but we haven't seen it transpire in his NBA career just yet. He was a headache for the Atlanta Hawks. The New York Knicks didn't really know how to use him well. So Cam Reddish now gets another chance to prove why he is a good young player, and he gets to play alongside Damian Lillard in Portland for the Trailblazers. And then the final one that I'll be talking about from the trade deadline is we seen James Wiseman, former second overall pick in the 2020 NBA draft, selected by the Golden State Warriors. He was traded before the trade deadline. Me and my co-host Fred talked about it. I don't think it was a good fit for the Golden State for him to go to the Golden State Warriors. We talked about that. I said that for James Wiseman, he came out of college too early. I don't think he even played 10 games for Memphis in his college career. There was some things why he didn't get to play his full freshman year, but I just thought it was very early for James Wiseman to come out and play, or especially only playing 9 college games. So that was a red flag to me when he was drafted. At the time, the Warriors, that was the only thing they were missing on the roster was a big man. James Wiseman did not meet up the expectations that the Steve Kerr and company had for him. He was a failed project for the Golden State Warriors. So definitely a letdown. It wasn't even a part of their championship run last year when the Golden State Warriors won the NBA title again in their strong dynasty that still lives to this day. He wasn't even a part of it. Wasn't healthy. Wasn't out there with his teammates. He was a failed project to me. I don't think it was a good fit for him to be in Golden State. Only played 60 games with the Warriors and was sent on several G League assignments playing G League games for the Golden State Warriors. So definitely a letdown when you were a former second overall pick in the 2020 draft. But I think he could turn around in Detroit. I think he has the chance to rewrite his wrong. He was around a lot of veteran guys in his time with Golden State. He was around guys that know how to win and win championships. He might have gained some experience from Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, Steve Kerr as well over his experience. So I think the Detroit Pistons might have did a good job trading for James Wiseman because they are building some bright building blocks in their path to being one day a contending team once again, trying to relive their golden days that they did years ago. So they have been building around in the draft. They've been collecting young players over the years. So now the Detroit Pistons, when all these guys are healthy, when they get to this point, they will have Cade Cunningham, they will have Killian Hayes, and they'll have Marvin Bagley and now James Wiseman in their young core that they're building in Detroit. So the Pistons definitely made a surprising move to me, a big splash during the NBA trade deadline. So I like the move. But those are all the top names. Those are my thoughts on the NBA trade deadline. Whew, boy. The second half of the NBA season, get your popcorn ready because it's going to be one to remember after this NBA trade deadline. The NBA landscape has officially been changed after Thursday afternoon. But that is all the time I have for you guys today. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for listening. This is your host, Thomas Tyree, signing off. And I'll see you guys on next week's episode.